All right. Shalom, family. It's your brother Kanaiba coming at you again with this video titled, Are You War Ready? So as men in this truth, you're actually called to be a soldier or a warrior, so to speak. And that actually makes sense because when you read the scriptures, when it talks about the Most High, Yahweh, in the book of Exodus chapter 15, and I believe the 3rd verse, it tells us that the Most High Yahweh is a man of war, right? So it would make sense for, his children, his sons, to also be warlike in nature, to be men of war, all right? But when you think about a warrior has to go through some type of training, okay? They have to be trained properly, and they have to be prepared to go to battle whenever that time may come, okay? So when you actually read the scriptures tell us what? That we have to study to show ourselves approved. That's actually a part of our training. Studying the scriptures, learning the scriptures, getting them inside of us, being ready to not only teach, but to actually apply those scriptures to our life. Okay? That's part of your training. But ultimately, you have to have this training to overcome this world and all the trials and tribulations that comes with this life that we live. Okay? So having said all that, let's get into the scriptures and see what we have. Okay? So this is the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 3. And it reads, Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ, or Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. Okay? So the beginning of the verse says to endure hardness. So we know that the New Testament originally was written in Greek. So now what I want to do, I want to go to the Strong's Concordance and look up this word hardness in the Greek and see what definitions we get. All right. So remember, the verse told us that we have to endure hardness, right? So this is actually the Greek word for the word hardness, okay? And it's Strong's G2553. And the Greek word is kakapatheo, okay? So now let's scroll down a bit here and let's take a look at Strong's definition. And it says, kakapatheo, from the same as G2552, to undergo hardship, be afflicted, endure afflictions, hardness, and watch this, suffer trouble. Now, why is this important? Okay, because we're told to endure hardness, right, as good soldiers of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, right? But it says to suffer trouble as one of the definitions for the word kakapatheo, which means hardness in English, okay? So that's important because when we read the Bible, it's prophesied about a time that's to come, known as Jacob's trouble, okay? And it's right here upon us. We're actually seeing the beginning stages of Jacob's trouble, okay? So what does that let us know? In order to make it through Jacob's trouble, we have to endure that trouble as good soldiers of Yahweh Shai. That's the only way you're going to make it through Jacob's trouble. All right? That's very, very important. But let's continue. So scrolling down a bit more, we have the outline of biblical usage. Okay? And let's see what we have. And it says, to suffer, endure evils. Okay? Hardships, troubles. But notice it says evils. All right? So, again, just bringing this back to Jacob's trouble, there's going to be a lot of evils in that day. The main evil being the implication of the mark of the beast, okay, which is the RFID chip. All right. That's why you're seeing a lot going on with them introducing this different type of technology, trying to merge humans and technology together. Just the other day, you had Elon Musk talk about how he's about to have a human-sized robot, a prototype of it, introduced next year. Okay, they're just trying to get people comfortable with the emergence of humans and technology. So at some point, they're going to introduce this chip that they want to put inside of you, this RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast. Okay, so moving on to the second point in the biblical usage, it says to be afflicted. Okay, so in order to endure these hardships as good soldiers, you're going to have to be afflicted. There's no way around that. All right. That affliction that we all have to suffer is a part of that purification process, being refined as gold. OK, you have to be tried. OK, as it says in Sirach, the 2nd chapter, and also Zechariah, the 13th chapter. All right. So going back to the verse, and it reads, this is 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 3. Thou therefore endure hardness. So we just got more understanding on what that word hardness represents. And it says, as a good soldier of Jesus Christ, or Yahawashi HaMashiach. Now notice the verse says to endure hardness as a good soldier. Okay, so now what I want to do, I want to go back to the Strong's and look up this word soldier in the Greek. All right, so let's get to it. So this is the Greek word for the word soldier, and it's Strong's G4757, strateotes. Okay, so now let's scroll down a bit and get the Strong's definition, and it reads, strateotes, from a presumed derivative of the same as G4756, a camper out, i.e. a common warrior. Okay, so another word for this word soldier in the Greek is a warrior. I actually like that word better. But anyway, it says literally or figuratively a soldier. Okay. So as you're walking through life, you have to be a soldier or a warrior for Yahawashi. Okay. And no warrior is ever unprepared. Okay. They're always ready for battle, as we're going to get into later on in this lesson. All right. So now let's scroll down a bit more. And this is the outline of biblical usage for the word strateotes, which is soldier in the Greek. And it reads, a common soldier. That's point 1. Now, point 2, look very closely. It says, a metaphor, a champion of the cause of Christ. Now, is that not something you brothers want to be? All right. You want to be a champion for the cause of Christ. That's what all brothers should be aspiring to be. Okay. A warrior is a champion. Okay. So there's something to be won here. And we're going to get into that later on as well. All right. So back to the scriptures. This is 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 3 again. And it reads, thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier. Now we got more understanding on the word soldier of Jesus Christ, or Yahawashi HaMashiach. Now this is verse 4, and it reads, no man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. All right. So now looking at the beginning of the verse, it says, no man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life. Right. So the man that's going to war is not concerned about the things of this life, the things of this world. Okay? You are supposed to be focused on the war, the battle at hand. That's what's most important. Okay? And why is that most important? Look at the next part of the verse, which says that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. Okay, that's why you're not concerned with the affairs of this life. You want to please him that chose you to be a soldier. That person that chose you being Yahawashi, according to verse 3. All right. So now let's get more understanding on this about not being entangled in the affairs of this life when you go to war. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 16 and verse 24. And it reads, Then said Jesus, or Yahawashi, unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Now notice how the middle of the verse says, let him deny himself. Now, what is this going into? Remember what we read in 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 4. It says, Any man that warreth entangleth not himself in the affairs of this life. So what does that translate to? You denying yourself. You're not entangled in the affairs of this life. You're more concerned about the war. Okay? The last part of the verse says, and take up his cross and follow me. Now, what does the cross represent? The cross is the hardness that you have to endure. Okay? That hardness, the affliction, the troubles, the evils that you have to go through in this life. Okay? Every Israelite man has to go through this, okay? Especially if you aspire to be that soldier or that warrior of Yahawashi, okay? This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 7 and verse 57, and it reads, Then answered he me and said, This is the condition of the battle, which man that is born upon the earth shall fight. Now notice the middle of the verse says, this is the condition of the battle. So what does this let us know? That means that you're going to be going to war. And if you're going to be going to war, you have to prepare yourself for battle. Okay? Now looking at the end of the verse, and it says, which man that is born upon the earth shall fight. Okay? There's no escaping this. Okay? You are literally born into a battle. Okay? You're going to go through those afflictions, that trouble, the evils that this world brings. There's no way around it. Every person is born into this. All right? But now the question is, knowing that you're going to be going through this, are you going to prepare yourself as a soldier or a warrior would? Are you going to be war ready? All right. So let's move on to the next verse, verse 58. And it reads, that if he be overcome, he shall suffer as thou hast said. But if he get the victory, he shall receive the thing that I say. So the end of the verse tells us, but if he get the victory, he shall receive the thing that I say. So we know that no warrior or no soldier goes to war to lose the war. You want to win. Okay? And it goes on to say, he shall receive the thing that I say. So that lets you know you're going to war to win something. There's a prize to be won for this battle that you're going into. Okay? And what the prize is the kingdom. Okay? When you read the beginning of this chapter, the angel explains to Esdras about what this prize is. Okay? So let's take a look at this. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 7 and verse 9. And it reads, if this city, the kingdom, now were given unto a man for an inheritance, again, the kingdom, if he never shall pass the danger set before it, how shall he receive this inheritance? Verse 10. And I said, it is so, Lord. Then said he unto me, even so also is Israel's portion. So when you look at the middle of verse 9, it says, if he never shall pass the danger set before it. What is that danger talking about? It's talking about the hardness. Again, the affliction, the evils, okay? All the trials and tribulations you have to go through in this life. You have to endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahushua if you want the kingdom, if you want to receive that inheritance. All right? So the end of the verse says, how shall he receive this inheritance? Right. So how is it that someone would want to receive a prize without working for it? Okay, on what planet does that make sense? You want the prize without going to war. That makes no sense at all. Even when you look at sports, which, to be honest, is really just a watered down version of war. Okay, they're going to war for a prize. When you look at the NBA, the NFL, boxing, etc., they're going to war, or what we call competing, for a prize. Okay? They don't just sit there and then they're handed a trophy or a belt. Okay? They have to compete. They have to go to war. And before they go to war, what do? They train or practice. Okay? So how do we as Israelites train for this war that we're born into? Okay? When you read the scriptures, it tells us what? That we have to study to show ourselves approved unto God. Okay, so what does that mean? You have to get into the scriptures. You have to read. You have to study. You have to get these scriptures inside of you so you can apply them. You have to apply these scriptures in your everyday life, and that's what helps you win the war. Okay? So moving on to verse 10, and it reads, and I said, it is so, Lord. Then said he unto me, even so also is Israel's portion. So now when you look at the end of this verse, it says, even so also is Israel's portion, letting us know who this prize is for, who this inheritance is for. Okay, and if that's not clear enough, let's look at the next verse. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 7 and verse 11. And it reads, because for their sakes, talking about Israel, I made the world. Okay, so this whole planet was created for the children of Israel. Okay, and that includes the inheritance that's to come, which is the new world that's to come. When you read 2nd Esdras, the 6th chapter and the 9th verse, it says that Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, talking about the world to come. Okay, Jacob is going to rule over the next world that's coming. Okay, but continuing on in the verse, it says, and when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done. Okay, because when Adam was on the scene, when he was first created, there wasn't any of these afflictions. He was pretty much born with everything he needs. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, so to speak. There was no evils, no perils, no, tribulations that he had to go through. But, him and Eve, they sinned. And that's what caused all these things to come into the world. Okay? So now let's jump down to verse 14. And it reads, "If then they that live labor not to enter these straight and vain things, they can never receive those that are laid up for them." Talking about the inheritance, the kingdom. Okay. So the beginning of the verse says, "If then they that live labor not to enter these straight and vain things." What is that talking about? That's talking about enduring that hardness. Okay. If you don't endure that hardness, then the end of the verse says they can never receive those that are laid up for them, meaning you're not going to win that prize. You got to go to war to win that prize, to receive the kingdom. Okay. So now, having said all that, what is something else that a soldier or a warrior does to prepare for battle? I'll tell you what they do. They have to put on their war apparel before they go into battle. No soldier or no warrior goes to battle in their civilian clothes. They do that, you're going to get jacked up. Okay, so you have to put on your armor. Okay, you have to put on that armor to protect yourself. All right, which leads us to this. This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 6 and verse 10. And it reads, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might." So notice how the verse says, "Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might." So I'll say this. I don't know of any legitimate soldier or warrior that's weak. Okay? In order to go to battle, in order to go to war, you have to be strong. Okay? And this verse tells us where our strength lies. Okay? Our strength comes directly from Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. All right? That being the Most High, the Heavenly Father, and his Son, okay, who the world knows as Jesus Christ, but his Hebrew name is Yahweh Shai. Okay? Moving on to the next verse, verse 11, and it reads, "Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." So again, we already concluded that one of the ways a soldier prepares for war is he does what? He has to put on his war apparel. Okay, he has to put on his armor. If you don't have your armor on, you're going to get hurt. That's simple logic. Okay, verse 12, and it reads, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." So notice the beginning of this verse, which pretty much summarizes the whole verse, says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood." Meaning what? That this battle, for the most part, is spiritual. Okay, it's not so much physical, even though it can play out physically, but it's a spiritual battle. Okay, so seeing that this is a spiritual battle, that means you have to arm yourself with spiritual things. Okay, you can't arm yourself with carnal things. Okay, this is not so much a battle where you use, guns and knives and things of that nature. Okay, this battle is actually, how can I put it? It's much more dangerous than that, believe it or not. Okay, you have to arm yourself with things that are spiritual. Okay. So moving on to the next verse, verse 13, and it reads, "Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand." So notice the beginning of the verse says, "Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God." Now, did we not just establish that one of the ways that a warrior prepares for war is they put on their war apparel? Okay, they have to put on their armor to protect themselves. Well, this is what this is going into. Okay, so moving on to the next verse, verse 14, and it reads, "Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness." So the beginning of the verse says, having your loins girt about with truth. So now the question is, what is the truth? Because this is a part of the armor that you have to put on to go to battle. Okay? So when you read the scriptures says this about Yahawashi. Yahawashi said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me." Okay, so Yahawashi is the truth. Okay, you have to walk in the spirit of Yahawashi in order to put on that armor. Okay, and then when you read the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 142, it tells us that thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Okay, so the law is also a part of what? That armor. Okay, and how do we know that? Remember in the book of Matthew, chapter 4, I believe starting at verse 4, right after Christ came off of his fast, Satan tried to tempt him. Okay, and everything that Satan threw at him, what did Yahawashi combat him with? Okay, he protected himself with what? The law. Everything he pulled came straight from Torah. Okay, so now the end of the verse says, "And having on the breastplate of righteousness." Okay, so now what is righteousness? Okay, what makes us righteous? Okay, because this is another part of our armor. It represents our breastplate. Okay, well, when we read Romans chapter 5 and verse 9, it tells us that we are justified. And that word justified is just another way of saying being made righteous through the blood of Yahawashi. Okay, see how it keeps going back to Yahawashi. He is what makes us righteous. Okay, so again, having faith in the sacrifice that he made for us, that's a part of our breastplate. Okay, that's our righteousness. All right, but don't get it twisted. You still have to keep the laws. Okay, just because you have faith in Yahawashi, that doesn't negate the laws. You still have to rehearse the righteous acts, which leads us to Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 25, which says, "And it shall be our righteousness if we shall observe to do all these commandments." So even the commandments are still a part of that breastplate, which is righteousness. All right. So moving on to the next verse, and it reads, "And your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace." Now here we go. Another part of our armor. Okay. It's the gospel of peace. Now, this is how amazing this is. It's still going back to Yahawashi. When you read the Gospel of John, when you read John chapter 16 and verse 33, what did Yahawashi tell us? He said, "In the world you shall have tribulation, but in him you shall have" what? Peace. Okay, so that peace comes from Yahawashi. Okay, another part of our armor. All right. Verse 16, and it reads, above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. Now notice the beginning of the verse said, above all, meaning what's about to be said is paramount. It's what's most important. Then it goes on to say, taking the shield of faith. Faith is what's most important. That's what's paramount. When you read the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, I believe it's chapter 11. That whole chapter is about faith. Okay, it starts off by saying that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Okay, and then in verse 6, it goes on to say that without faith, it's impossible to please God. For he that cometh to God must first believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Okay, but you see how important faith is. You know, on your own time, you should really read that whole chapter of Hebrews, the 11th chapter. Okay, but that's just showing how important faith is. Okay, and even when you're dealing with the Most High Son, Yahawashi, without faith in him, you're not going to make it. Okay, you have to have faith in him and the sacrifice that he made for all of us as the children of Israel. Okay, without faith, you really can't do anything. Okay, faith is what's going to be paramount in the days that's coming. Because remember, we have to endure hardness as good soldiers of Yahawashi. And what did we already establish that hardness is? When we looked at one of the definitions, it said troubles. Well, guess what? There's something coming. Well, it's actually already upon us, and it's known as Jacob's trouble. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30 and verse 7, and it reads, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Okay? So notice the verse says, so that none is like it, referring to how great this day is going to be. And when I say great, not in a good way, it goes on to say, it is even the time of Jacob's trouble. Okay, so there's no other day like this or time like this in history. Okay, that's how bad Jacob's trouble is going to be. There's no other time period recorded in history that's going to be like this. All right, it's called Jacob's trouble. And remember what one of the definitions of hardness was. It meant troubles. So you have to endure hardness or troubles as a good soldier of Yahawashi. Okay? And we already read that part of your armor, or the most important part of your armor, is what? Faith. That's how you're going to be saved out of Jacob's trouble. It's going to be through faith. Okay? Faith is what's most important. I cannot stress that enough. All right? So with that being said, I believe this is a good place to end the lesson. Again, the name of this video is titled, Are You War Ready? Okay, and again, you know, we have to endure hardness as good soldiers of Yahawashi. Okay, and to do that, you have to be prepared to go to war. Okay, you have to go to war with your war apparel on, with your armor. Okay, you have to be prepared, especially for the days to come. Okay, which is Jacob's trouble. We have to prepare our spirits for that day. All right. So with that, I want to thank all you brothers and sisters for tuning in. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. And until next time, Shalom, family.